Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine is 10 years old this year, and for its 10th anniversary, Relic Entertainment have released an anniversary edition featuring new digital content, all DLC and some, and I quote, fun extras. Well, the timing of this announcement was actually quite funny, as I had literally just finished a recent playthrough myself, and at the end of it, all I could honestly think was, this game needs a sequel. Perhaps this anniversary edition will push the developers in that direction if interest is stirred up enough. With that being said, I thought it would be fun to go back and share my thoughts on the game as a whole. Does it hold up today, 10 years after release? Let's get into it. Despite this game being 10 years old, I will say it anyway, there will be spoilers in this video. So first of all, let's talk about the obvious question. Do you need to be into Warhammer 40K to enjoy this game? No, not at all. When I played this game upon its initial release, I was not into 40K. I had never read a book or played the tabletop game. I still remember very much enjoying it. But now, being a big fan of the lore and the novels set in the 40k universe, I did wonder if I would become more of a lore snob upon this playthrough and judge the game in any way. No, that was not the case at all. Literally anyone can pick up this game and play it. At its core, it's a standard third-person hack-and-slash shooter. If you want something to compare it to a poor man's Gears of War in a 40k universe. Like, seriously. It's almost identical, even down to the weapon selection. It just has slightly more basic mechanics. For instance, there is no cover system, which is something that can often get frustrating when you're being bombarded with orc firepower. So let's get into the story and setting. It is set on a forge world where an invasion of orcs has left the population in pieces. Enter the mighty Space Marines, more specifically the Ultramarines, led by Captain Titus, aka you. The game does a great job of making you feel powerful. Despite the gigantic armor that the Space Marines wear, Titus moves around with a sort of grace as he slaughters hordes of orcs. This game combines a wide arsenal of both firearms and melee weapons to deal with the orcs both at range and close up and personal. It's you and your 3 Marine brothers versus massive waves of orcs. On screen at all times is your health bar. You're fitted with a huge suit of armor, but you are not invincible. If you lose health, the only way to regain it is to perform executions after stunning an enemy, making for quite tense situations that demand the best out of players. The story itself takes twists and turns, but is quite dedicated to its source material and lore, with all the characters feeling completely natural inside the Warhammer universe. I know that it's one of the most complex, long-running universes ever formed, but new players can get a decent enough understanding after playing for a little while. Again, you do not need to be a Warhammer fan to enjoy Space Marine's solid gameplay. Towards the end of the game, much to my enjoyment, new enemies are introduced. These are demons that are far deadlier than orcs. The plot may seem generic, but it has its moments where you'll feel hooked in front of the screen while blasting a myriad of enemies one by one. Note that the story isn't quite finished since the sequel was cancelled, hence we have no idea what the actual fate of the main character is. There are a couple of twists in the overall game's plot, but it's not something jaw-dropping to witness. It can easily be predicted if you've already played a handful of games in a similar genre. After a few hours of gameplay, players will discover other sets of weapons that'll aid them take on the danger that they may come to face. Gamers will find themselves swinging the axe or the hammer multiple times and slamming it to the ground, which causes the enemies to scatter all over the place. In addition to melee weapons, the game offers a collection of guns to choose from. Each firearm varies from one to the other according to its usefulness in battle. If I'm honest, it was definitely the massive variety in weapons that prevents the gameplay from getting a little stale. You can switch between most different weapons at these mini checkpoint areas and use this as a way to tackle the enemy in completely different ways each time. Even switching from a chainsaw to a hammer for your melee weapon massively switches things up. Oh, there is also the jump pack, which they let you use 3 or 4 times throughout the entire game when it's conveniently essential, but after a short period of use it always happens to run out of fuel. And while I was annoyed by this at first because, well, it was just so damn fun, I am actually glad they did it. because I think it probably would have made the game far too easy, as those ground and pound strikes from above do some serious damage, taking out a lot of the challenge. Now let's talk about the graphics. Obviously I wasn't expecting much on this playthrough from a decade-old game, but my god was I surprised. The graphics in this game are not bad at all. There are several scenes of the battlefield that will leave you on the edge of your seat enjoying the scenes of an apocalyptic war. They do a great job of portraying the massiveness of the 40K setting. The scenes in the game where you come across the giant Titan are a great example of that. The setting and the graphics do such a good job of putting you into the Space Marines world that you completely forget that you are playing quite an old game. So let's get to a conclusion. Despite its rather blunt nature, the combat is fun and relentless, with the game doing a good job of making you feel like a one-man army wearing a half-ton of power armor. Oh, let's not forget that it's brutal as hell, which it absolutely has to be in the grim, dark setting of 40k. The ground shakes with every step when you sprint, and there's a satisfying clang when you fall to earth. This feeling of sheer power is portrayed particularly well when you find a jump pack, which again lets you soar into the sky and crash down on your enemies, throwing them to the ground in a wide radius. The plot is quite generic 40k fiction, but it does at least give you the feeling that you're part of a planet-wide conflict. It's a shame that you're playing as the Ultramarines in a way, as they are the squeakiest clean of all the Space Marines. Personally, I would have preferred to have been playing as a more interesting, conflicted chapter such as Space Wolves or the Blood Raven, something like that, but the Ultramarines are still fun. The 8 to 10 hours it will take you to finish the single player campaign will keep you gripping, and to be honest, a much longer campaign may have felt a little stale. Space Marine isn't an epic, plot-driven action game. It is, however, a highly polished, exciting and visceral shoot and chop 'em up style game, which will appeal to an audience beyond just 40k fans. Not a must-have for 40k fans, but a very good game nonetheless, and I highly recommend it for fans of the genre. But if you are a big fan of 40k and its lore, and you've always wanted to run around within its grim, dark setting, then this is an absolute must-have. So let me know in the comments down below, guys, what you think of this game. Does it still hold up today? Do you want to see a sequel? And if we do get a sequel, do you want to see Captain Titus's story continued, or would you much prefer something else? Personally, I think a game in a similar fashion to this, but bigger, with more options, different factions to choose from, and an opportunity to upgrade and improve your character, would be ideal. More of a mix between this and, say, Skyrim, for example. Now, yeah, I know that's a big ask, but a guy can dream, right? Let's talk about what you want in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, my friends. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time on Explore.